We are back with National Apprenticeship Week, and as you can see, I'm joined by a panel of very special guests. Let's learn a little bit more about our guests. So, what I need you to do is briefly introduce yourselves and tell us what apprenticeship you're currently doing. And I'm going to start with Aman, and then we'll work around the room.
Afternoon all, my name's Aman. I'm 23 years old and I'm currently doing a HNC in construction site supervision while working alongside of Morrison Energy Services on the overhead lines doing transmission wiring.
Amazing. Paige, over to you.
Hi, my name's Paige Fincher. I'm 21 and I'm currently completing a Level 3 Business Administrator apprenticeship in Morrison Water Services.
Perfect. And Sadie.
Hi, my name is Sadie Duffy. I'm 19 years old and I'm currently completing a Level 3 Business Admin apprenticeship within the Plant and Fleet at M Group Services.
Well, thank you so much to the three of you for coming on today, because we've got this opportunity to talk about the organisation, of course, and apprenticeships as a whole, which is quite exciting to be in this space right now, you know, during National Apprenticeship Week, the week where we're celebrating apprentices and the amazing opportunities that are available. What I want to begin this panel now and this panel discussion with is thinking right back to before you even did your apprenticeship. What first got you interested in apprenticeships, rather than, you know, thinking about university or maybe full-time work? What was that like, and what was those discussions like with yourselves? Sadie, I want to start with you on this one.
So at my school there was a lot of transparency throughout sixth form for apprenticeships and the opportunities that they offer. I'd sort of decided at the beginning of sixth form that university wasn't really for me because I didn't enjoy the environment. I much prefer learning on the job, and obviously being paid while you're learning is a big plus of an apprenticeship.
Absolutely. And Paige, what about you? What was it like for you thinking about your next steps?
So when I was in school, I knew I'm much more of a hands-on and much more practical learner. And so when everyone was just talking about, like all my friends were talking about going into colleges, I just didn't have that same excitement. So that's why I started looking into apprenticeships.
Amazing. And Aman, I know we're going to come on to shortly about your journey, but what sparked that interest for apprenticeships in the end?
So my experience and wasn't traditionally, so I didn't go to sixth form, so I finished school and did a couple of part-time jobs. A lot of my mates were in apprenticeships and stuff like that, but because it was more hands-on, on-the-job sort of training, you know, learning as you go, and you're getting paid for it at the same time. So that's what sort of interested me.
Absolutely. I mean, it seems like a no-brainer, doesn't it? Now, we don't want to take away from the fact that there are many other pathways into organisations, and university is an absolutely incredible pathway. But today we get to focus on talking about all things apprenticeships. Now, Aman, you slightly touched on it there about the fact that you did actually go to university, but you later switched to an apprenticeship. Ultimately, what led to that decision? You know, how do you feel about it now, having gone through the experience of starting university and then coming over to apprenticeships?
So personally, I've always known from the day dot that I've not been the most easiest person to do education with. So I was never the best in sort of school, but I obviously went through the traditional route of going to university for about 6 months, and then just retain. The biggest difficulty for me was retaining information on long lectures. So I started doing a bit of volunteering work here and there, and I've learned that when you're on the job, you can retain more information much better, sort of sense. And then, to be fair, it's probably the best decision I've ever made because I'm getting paid, I'm studying, I'm learning the job day by day, and there's nothing more better than you can get than that.
Absolutely. And I suppose where you were talking there about maybe lectures and long lectures and about retaining that information, not only do you have to retain it for maybe exams and things like that, but also when you eventually get into the working world, you're going to have to retain that information for a number of years before you might actually be putting it into real practice as well. Whereas with an apprenticeship, you are learning, you're doing that theory based, of course, there's still that element, but you're also putting it into practice pretty much straight away, which I think is a real positive. Now, just like, and for our viewers, just like Aman's been explaining there about university and whatnot, we caught up before we went live today with all of our panel members to discuss their journeys. And it's really interesting that we're going to continue finding out about the different journeys that our panel's been on. So, Paige, I want to come over to you next. So, you actually started in education and then later moved into business administration. What do you think what was the biggest challenge in switching those industries?
So I think for me, the biggest challenge was the complete, like, the working environment. So where I was so used to just running after kids, teaching them how to read, teaching them how maths, like, I've gone from that, sitting on the floor all the time, to an office environment with a bunch of adults and grown-ups, and obviously I saw them as more grown-up than me, with like loads of different educational backgrounds and where they've come from as well, because a lot of them didn't come from education. They came from all sorts of different backgrounds. I know I met one lad who was in uni, and he did illustration and then he moved to construction. So it was just interesting, but like challenging, just to, because it's difficult to relate to them. But actually, as time gone on, I related a lot more than I thought I did.
Do you find then, now knowing that information, so obviously you yourself, you've got that experience of going into, or initially going into, a completely different industry and then now in construction, and you were talking about your colleague, that did an illustration and degree and then came into construction. Would you say, in a follow-up to that I suppose no matter what it is that you do, there's kind of always that option to come into construction because there's just so many opportunities?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, where he is now, it's crazy considering he was on a completely different path originally. And it was nice to see, for me as well, coming from education, when I was so new, I was so nervous. And I was worried that maybe I wouldn't quite fit in or be able to progress the way they have. But then when I started talking to them and realising that actually they didn't just go, wait, like, they didn't grow up going, yeah, I'm going to be in construction. They did all these other things and they worked their way up. It made it realise I can do that too.
It's a lot less pressure, isn't it, for young people to think, go and explore what it is that you want to do. Of course, explore construction, but also we might have people from college, sixth form, we might have people that are working, we've got parents, teachers that are joining us, maybe siblings of young people that this is going out to in schools that might be on a certain career trajectory, and they're on that path and think, actually, have I thought about construction, which is just brilliant. Now, Sadie, I want to move over to you. So you started in retail before joining your apprenticeship. What do you think about the retail industry and what you've learned from there? How that experience has kind of helped you with your current role?
So kind of linking back to the whole moving into a different place, because obviously an office setting is completely different to what retail is. It really helped with my confidence and being able to communicate with like customers and other people around the office, because I was so used to talking to people I was seeing for hours at a time every day in retail. Like, it really helped me build up my communication skills, and also helped me with some of my outlooks on different things, because obviously in retail, if something goes wrong, we're all meant to fix it. So it really helps you with like your problem solving and having a different outlook on different problems. That, like I say, it's a different approach to fixing things.
Absolutely. And I suppose that's what it's all about, isn't it, when it comes to apprenticeships and using what it is that you've got maybe in terms of life experience. And I suppose when we focus on maybe school leavers now, they'll be thinking and watching this thinking, what are you talking about? I don't have any life experiences. You actually really do, without actually thinking about it. If you're a part of an after school club, you maybe do some part-time work, you might do some volunteering. It's really about taking every opportunity that you've got and drawing those skills and where that can then take you in the future, which is just great. Okay, let's move on now. Back to Aman. I want to find out what your biggest challenge that you've faced in your apprenticeship so far, and how have you overcome that?
So I think the biggest challenge for anybody when they're starting an apprenticeship and going into the real working world is just finding that balance, time management. you've come from, if you were working part-time or you've come from sixth form, you wake up in the morning, you go do what you need to do, and then you just switch off for the day. But when you're in the professional world, you've got to balance your studies, you've got to balance your time management, getting into work, getting home from work, and then also, having a family life. If you've got a missus, if you've got children, just, balancing it all. But the way I overcome it was just planning day by day, and if you can plan week by week, it even helps even more. Little things like having a diary, updating your team's meetings, and putting reminders on your phone. It really does help, because the last thing you want to do is not achieve, and achieve what you want to do. And you've got an expectation in the professional world to make sure that all jobs are done at a certain time.
When you think then about that, and what I'm going to do throughout this is to kind of focus on those skills. So pulling away from that what you've just said there is about organisation. Being really organised, making sure that you're keeping on top of things. Would you say that you've always been like that? So have you always been organised, or is that something that you've developed through your apprenticeship?
I wouldn't say I was very organised when I was younger. Definitely not in school. You're not sort of taught to be organised as much as you should be in the professional world. I think you learn it while you're on the job. You learn it from other colleagues. You learn it from your managers, your colleagues. How they do things. Some people might write things down. Some people might just remember things. Some people plan it by every 10 minutes. It's just dependent on how it works for you. But yeah.
And I think that's really important. And there's a reason why I asked that follow-up question. And what it is for me is that we hear a lot about the young people coming into organisations. They need to be organised. They need to have these certain skill sets. And for some, that is quite daunting, because you might think, actually, I don't have that. I'm not organised, or I could improve my organisational skills. And to know that, Aman, you were so open with us then, so thank you, that you weren't as organised as what you might be now in the working world, just really will put the young people's minds at rest to go, at least that's something I can develop within work and through the support of my colleagues. Okay, let's move on now to Sadie. I want to find out about how you build confidence, because that is another skill that we absolutely need when it comes to the working world. So apprenticeships often involve working with experienced professionals. How on earth do you manage that? Coming into somewhere where you've got people that are more senior than you, that have got a wealth of experience, and you're kind of coming in that fresh face that's new and maybe ready to learn but don't have that experience. How do you build that confidence when working alongside senior colleagues?
Honestly, at first it was difficult. But coming into a new place for some people will always be difficult. But it's doing things that will make yourself feel more confident, like reaching out to people, and don't feel uncomfortable as a new person to ask questions. I'd spoke to my manager, and I was paired with one of the more senior members of staff, so that I felt comfortable building a relationship with this one person to get me started on feeling more confident. And it really worked for me, working with this one person, where I then felt like no question was a silly question. And then it moved around the office, where I was then more comfortable asking certain people for different things, or the answers to certain things. So I definitely say speaking to your manager or somebody that you trust in the workplace will definitely help you at the beginning. And from there, I think you build confidence every day that you're at work.
So a follow-up question, because everybody that's watching now and the three of you on my screen today will know that I literally love finding out more information about what it is that you're saying. So would you say that it's a supportive environment then, for all three of you that are working there within the organisation, within the industry itself? Would you say that it's a supportive environment?
Yeah, I would definitely say it is. I mean, as soon as I came into the workplace, they briefed me on everything: who I need to go to if I don't feel comfortable, who to go to if I have a question, where to go if I don't feel great. Like, you've got your mental health first aiders now, your first aiders. It was always made very clear from day dot for me in my office where to go if I wasn't comfortable, and that really took a weight off my shoulders, knowing that there was people I could go to, and that there was an easier route, and that I didn't have to sit there not knowing anything.
Amazing. It's good to find out because, again, it's just so helpful for, I think, when it comes to support, a lot of parents I see, asking about what support's going to be there for my child, or parents and carers for my young people, what's that going to be there. So to know that there's that community of colleagues and people that you can go to get that support, I know will definitely put parents' minds at rest, especially. Okay, let's move on now. So, for students who worry that an apprenticeship might not be as good as university, what would you say to them? And Paige, I want to go to you with this one.
Yeah, so even though I never went to university, this is my second apprenticeship, and I think that really speaks volumes that I've chose to do another apprenticeship. But it's really helped me develop with just my personal skills as well. Like I find I'm a lot more confident, and like I said earlier, like I do learn like hands-on and more practical. So and the fact that I can do that, like Aman said earlier, like earning money as you do it is such a big positive, really.
Absolutely. Okay, let's move on now. Aman, back over to you. I want to find out about how, I suppose, your apprenticeship has helped shape your career goals. Do you see yourself staying in the industry for long term? What does that look like for you?
Oh yeah, definitely. When I started the apprenticeship, I wasn't familiar with the actual niche of the market of transmission and changing overhead lines, because it's not something that's really, discussed a lot, in schools, and you don't really learn about it. But it's with my job, I can be in Scotland for 6 months, and then I can be in London for 6 months, and I can travel the country, learning and doing work, at all times. But for the future, there's definitely an opportunity to, work your way up the ladder, become senior, and even, I've been here 2 years now, and the my managers put trust in me for new apprentices to shadow me, when they start. So it shows that there is a lot of opportunity for all of us, to excel.
And to progress, absolutely. And I think that apprenticeship really being there as that solid foundation of what your career looks like, which I think is great. You kind of got that opportunity within your apprenticeship to take all of the knowledge that you possibly can about different things, and also learn from others as well in the workplace, actually doing it. I mean, apprenticeships, as I'm sure you can tell, for everybody that's watching, all of our viewers, that they are something that we absolutely champion, and especially during National Apprenticeship Week, where we're celebrating current, past, even future apprentices, and about the real kind of stories that come behind that and the skills that are learned. Okay, we have got just a few things to finish off with today. Sadie, I want to come to you and ask if you could go back in time, and we are all still young on this call and on this recording today, absolutely. But if you could go back in time and give your younger self one piece of career advice, and especially when you think about coming up towards the 16 and maybe 18, what would you give yourself?
I would definitely have told myself to be more confident in what I wanted to do, especially throughout sixth form. For me, it just felt like uni was the only option. Schools didn't really, although my school was quite transparent towards the end, I don't think there is enough coverages on apprenticeships at school and different routes, because they obviously want everybody to go off to uni, which isn't a bad thing. But I just think for me to have had more confidence in knowing that I didn't want to do uni, instead of wasting all of my time writing a personal statement, looking at unis, when realistically I knew that as soon as the offers come through I didn't want to go. But I think that it was definitely a good idea for me to have taken a gap year after that, though. If you're not sure, it's definitely a good idea to take one, because I think that really cemented for me that I knew that I didn't want to go to university, and that the option for me was doing an apprenticeship, and that I do think they are the way forward with jobs.
Absolutely. And they're becoming a lot more opportunities across the board as well, and across different industries as well. If you think back maybe 10 years ago to where we are now with apprenticeships, I mean, the amount of standards that there are, amount of opportunities that you just see on the different websites of both company, the apprenticeship government website. It's just so great to see that the opportunities are becoming more, because what it means is that organizations are realizing that apprentices and apprenticeships are the way forward, which it's just incredible to see. Okay, let's finish off now, and I want to start with you, Paige, and Aman and Sadie, absolutely feel free to jump in after Paige. This has got to be one of my favorite parts of today's interview, and it's actually the last thing that we're going to cover today, and it's all about myths and busting those, because there are a lot of stereotypes and a lot of myths that we see and hear about when it comes to apprenticeships. So right now we have the opportunity to kind of go, that is not what they're like. So for students who are watching this who might be unsure about apprenticeships, what is one myth that you would like to bust? And Paige, starting with you.
So I want to bust the myth where you don't have to go from school straight into apprenticeships. Like, you don't have to be 16. It might take you a while to decide what you want to go into. So say you're not quite ready yet to go into an apprenticeship, you try some other things, but definitely don't rule it out. And you could be, I know people that were 30 when they started their apprenticeship, since we did this development scheme in Morrison's and M Group. And it's amazing to see how old people are when they're changing career, and it's really inspiring to see that.
Absolutely. And then Aman, Sadie, what is one myth, and I'm fine with either one of you jumping in, telling us what is something that you'd want to tell the students and really go, this isn't what it's like at all.
One thing I'd say is I definitely agree with Paige. There's people who are joining us now who are in their 40s and just wanting to change career, and the opportunity arises for an apprenticeship. But a myth that I'd like to bust would be there is so much support and diversity, and there's so much opportunities nowadays for the young generation to find an apprenticeship that they will enjoy. It's all over your social medias nowadays. If you use your social media to your advantage, you can find the career that you dream to do. it, you know the availability of information is so vast now. There's no excuse for you to not find what you love. Even if it takes a couple of attempts, you might start an apprenticeship and you might not like it. That doesn't mean you're stuck forever, if you know what I mean. And you're not putting yourself, you're not wasting time, because even if you didn't like it, you're still gaining experience, and that will definitely help you in the future.
Absolutely. And Sadie, over to you.
Yeah, I agree. One that I'd like to bust is that I see a lot around that apprentices aren't doing a real job, whereas we definitely are. Although we might be paid less than these fully qualified people, they're paid more because they are qualified and they have got the experience. Whereas us coming in as newcomers, we still have to do the exact same job, and day to day, like, we all work, full-time hours. We do our college days where we have to, so I think we actually maybe even do a little bit more than what fully qualified people do, but we definitely do a real job.
Amazing. Well, it's now come to the end, and I want to take this opportunity to say a huge thank you to the three of you for coming on today and, talking about what it's like to be an apprentice and your experience as well. And there's so much that we've learned today that I wish I could round everything up. But I think I'm going to end with saying another huge thank you for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay, so for anybody that's watching, if you have any questions for our panel members or the team, then you can leave them in the live chat, which is just to the right of the video player. Now let's see what we've got coming up next for National Apprenticeship Week.